All right, welcome, 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 everyone. Yes, I am Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison, and you are joining us for a Queen's Round Table Virtual Symposium. And actually, this one is titled My Health is My Wealth. And this is extremely important. I'm super excited. Let me just tell you all that. So, my health is my wealth is centered around just that. It's centered around wellness, overall wellness. Today, we're going to be focusing on mental health and mental health awareness in general. So, I'm here. I have my panelists here. Everyone is either a licensed clinical social worker or a licensed counselor. Okay, so we have a variety of somebody has some background, a little bit of background there. Okay, so either a licensed counselor or a licensed, a licensed clinician, and we're coming from different states and a variety of different backgrounds. So I am super excited. Definitely make sure that you share this out. Make sure you like it. Leave any questions or comments that you may have. Okay. So before we get started, the whole idea here is by raising awareness about mental health issues, we can reduce stigma, increase access to resources and support, and foster a culture of empathy and understanding. Additionally, mental health awareness helps individuals recognize the signs of mental health challenges in themselves and others, empowering them to seek help when needed and support those around them. Overall, prioritizing mental health awareness is vital for creating healthier and more supportive societies. So, definitely, I want you to really listen. If you need to grab a notepad, go ahead and do that. You want to jot some things down. We're going to be, providing education as well as resources. And you can definitely, each young lady on this panel will tell you how you can reach out to them if you want to basically continue the conversation. So we're going to go ahead and start with our introduction. So I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison, and I actually do the Eight Queens Roundtable show and podcast. And I actually have a variety of different guests on. It's all geared towards personal, professional, and leadership development. So every guest that I bring on is able to basically share her story, talk about how she has managed to overcome, numerous obstacles. Being an entrepreneur, you have to be very creative. You have to think outside the box, and they share openly and honestly about that, providing inspiration, hope, and definitely different tools and tips to be able to help other women entrepreneurs personally, professionally, or as far as leadership development. So that's one of the things I do. And I also do these virtual symposiums. And the one in September, I do them semi-annually. The one in September is My Health is My Wealth. And the one that I do in September is Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within. So that's all surrounding leadership. And I'm the executive producer of the Eight Queens Roundtable channel on the Women Win Network. And the channel itself is dedicated to mental, physical, and spiritual development of African American women in general. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our introductions. So next up is Shannon. Shannon, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and definitely let us know where you're located.
All right. Well, hi everyone. It is amazing to be here. Like I said, my name is Shannon. The C is for Caraway, so Shannon Caraway, right? I recently got married November 2023. So, yay me. But I'm originally from Mississippi. I moved to Georgia in August of 2019. So I've been here almost 5 years now. So it's been great. since then. So I have worked. I came to Georgia working outpatient care, which I have done for most of my career. Counseling children, adults, and I have done couples therapy and marriage therapy. And people look at me like, "How you do marriage therapy and you not been married before?" I was like, people just want to talk to me. So yeah, so I've had some success stories with that. So it's been good. But I have, as far as work, like I said, I've been outpatient. I've provided individual counseling for children, adults. I have worked in school settings. I'm currently working in the correctional area where I provide individual services for people who are incarcerated. I'm at a county jail right now. I just spent last year, 2023, I was at a all male prison, so that was interesting. Let me just tell y'all. So yeah, whole nother story. But anywho, I'm also the owner of Altruism and Wellness LLC. That is a virtual counseling center. I provide services for individuals. I don't have a lot of clients right now. I'm on Psychology Today, and I recently just got approved to be on Google, so you can Google me now. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I am trying to expand that services as well. So it's a lot going on with that. Also on my website and stuff, which I will give that later and stuff. But providing self-care tips, self-care educational sources, and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm about. I'm also an author, and I'm also an instructor for Albany State University, where I teach 2 online classes. I just got a lot going on. Okay. But I've been counseling for over 14 years now, so it has been a blessing so far. So I'm just excited to keep doing the work I'm doing, and hopefully one day be a motivational speaker of some sort and keep going. So we're going to work it out. But it's been great so far.
All right. Well, welcome, Shannon. Very, very excited to have you here on the panel with us today.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Angela.
Hello, hello. I'm Angela T. Jackson. I'm the face of the Jackson Impact Mental Health Solutions. I'm a licensed professional counselor with National Counselor Certification in the state of Tennessee. Yes. And I started private practice in the heart of the pandemic, but I have been in the field. It's been over 12 years. And so right now, I open my arms and my doors to all of those first-time therapy clients in the Black and Brown communities, and everyone for that matter. But I like to point out the Black and Brown communities because there's been such a stigma there. So I do my best to interrupt that stigma on mental health, let them know that it doesn't always have to be a mandate or a problem to engage in counseling. I absolutely am in the business of highlighting the need for services and looking at it from a lens of self-care. So right now, as I said, I'm in private practice, and I have experience working with intensive outpatient groups, outpatient therapy in general, working with teens, adults, families, adolescents, and the list goes on. So also, as far as specialty, working with newly diagnosed clients with autoimmune deficiencies. That can be difficult when you're dealing with health issues because there is that connection between mental health and physical health. So I just like to say total health. So, getting a new diagnosis of any kind can create a level of adjustment, figuring out what your new normal looks like, and just getting a prescription and being sent on your way is difficult, especially when you're dealing with the changes, the grief, and all that comes with that. So I'm glad to be in this space and just show up and represent in the Black community and say, hey, you have representation in this area that maybe you didn't know was accessible to you. So I'm glad to be here today.
Well, Miss Angela, we're glad to have you. And I'm so glad you mentioned that about the autoimmune disorders, because I know I've experienced that like in my own personal life, that a lot of women, and I'll say African American women, because that's who I'm more familiar with, that later on in life, as a result of, kind of the whole lack of self-care,
Mhm.
things of that nature, just kind of being in so many places at once, that's something that I'm seeing manifest a lot of, like the fibromyalgia. And I don't know that fibromyalgia is a autoimmune disorder, but that's just one of the things that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But I was primarily thinking about like maybe lupus, or either there's a whole host of autoimmune disorders that people start
Absolutely.
to develop, and they don't, and they don't know what it is. Like I have a personal experience with that. A loved one was in the hospital for a while, and they couldn't figure out what was, they couldn't figure out what was going on.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think that's something that we're starting to see, come up. So I'm just glad that you mentioned that. Okay.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Angela. I'm glad you're here. So next up we have Dominique.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dominique Smith. I am in the state of Michigan. I am a clinical social worker, I'd say in training. I have my limited license as a master level social worker. I've been in the field of social work for over 12 years. I know I look like a baby, but it's been 12 years. So this is definitely where I feel I am called to serve. Right now, I work as a neuro rehab mental health therapist. So I work with a population that has been significantly impacted by traumatic brain injury. So I work with adults and I work with children who have neurobehavioral issues in which they require therapy. I call it a pretty diverse background with clinical and community. So I have worked for the city of Novi here in Michigan as a community outreach coordinator for a nonprofit. So I got a chance to work with the youth and families. So that was really good. And then I also have been in a hospital. So working in a psychiatric inpatient unit, providing therapy that way. And then lastly, I am the owner of Sacred Hope Wellness. So I do a lot of psychoeducation, mental health wellness workshops, trainings, and many retreats for Black and Brown women, specifically millennial women. Last year was my first annual, what I call the Heal Girl Summer. So in the summertime, I had in-person mental health workshops for millennial women addressing childhood trauma and how it affects our adulthood. I'm really big on intergenerational trauma and identifying how that shows up in our adulthood. I love children. I prefer to work with adults to heal the inner child in them so we can better succeed with protecting our youth. So that's in a nutshell what I do, and I am super grateful to be here, and I can't wait to hear how this discussion goes.
Yes, you do look like a baby, Dominique. Let's say that. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And and already it's such a wealth of different experiences and knowledge bases. And see, that's what things like pro- um platforms, I guess that's what I want to say, platforms such as this is so important, because we're all coming from, different diverse backgrounds. I'm just realizing I didn't even give my background, but I'll after everybody we get through everybody, I'll go back. But just bringing us together, and talking about different perspectives, and we have different ages in the room, and so this is good. I love this. Okay, so Felice.
Hello, everyone. I am Felice Martin, also known as the Attitude Adjuster and the Freedom Facilitator. And basically, what that means is that I help people work through mental health challenges using brain-based strategies to help them live the life that they want to live. My specialty involves trauma, specifically using healing and working through trauma using neurofeedback as well as brain-based strategies, because ultimately we know that if you're alive on this planet, we've all experienced some type of trauma at some point in our lifespan. This is what I say my second career, but it's actually my calling. I believe I was put on earth to do this healing work. I love doing it. I'm very passionate about it. I do have a private therapy practice in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been in practice since 2015. So I'm very excited about that. I also say that my practice is a incubator for up and coming therapist. It is my goal to make sure that, when we enter this healing space, that we are equipped with not only the professional knowledge, but also practical knowledge. How can I sit with my patients or my clients? How can I offer a space for them to heal? The only way I can do that is if I'm healed, or or working towards my healing. So that is very important to me. I also, again, provide neurofeedback. I love everything involving the brain. I know that Dominique mentioned that she's in the neuro, spectrum as well. So I really appreciate that. In addition to that, I do speaking engagements as well. I do training. I love training other therapists and other mental health professionals on how to use the brain to really capitalize on the brain when it comes to working through healing dynamics, and using those and adding the brain and understanding the brain and how it impacts the interventions that they may, enjoy doing or find useful. Because ultimately, when we think about mental health and mental wellness, it is in our head. And what does that mean? It's in our brain. So we need to understand our brain and how our brain responds to various experiences that we do have. So I'm looking forward to sharing with each of you, and sharing with the individuals who are a part of this, who will watch this video or watch this podcast. I'm so excited about it. I'm here to help. I am the CEO of Behavioral Health Associates of Georgia, and I welcome the opportunity to share with you guys. Thank you.
Well, welcome, and we're glad to have you here, Felice. So, Miss Gricelda, how are you? Oh, you're muted still.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Gricelda Ramsey. I'm a licensed master social worker in Michigan. I'm currently awaiting for approval for licensure in Nevada and Alabama. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I will be also applying for licensure in New Jersey and Illinois also. So I'm just trying to expand our reach. Unfortunately, a lot of states are saying there's such a shortage of therapists. I don't know why, but I know people are in need, and we are here to service them and help them to their healing place. And so I'm extending myself out to other states, hopefully, and connecting with other therapists in those states as well as clients. I do have out of town clients already, but I want to connect with clinicians in those states also. I'm the owner of Life Changing Therapeutic Services. I went into full-time private practice also during the pandemic. I've been practicing over about 20 years though. And since my graduation in the early 2000s, I've been practicing social work. I worked in domestic violence, school social work. I've done in-home prevention therapy with foster care and CPS. I've done a lot of gamuts of therapy. And I worked with children, adults, and couples, married couples, and mental health. In groups. And I do a lot of workshops and training in the faith community. I'm listed as a Christian counselor on Psychology Today. I do a lot of training and workshops in the faith community, getting them acclimated to what mental health looks like, and you love Jesus, or you love God, or you love Allah, whoever the case may be. Whoever calls, I will come and give that service to them, because mental health is very important, and it has nothing to do with your faith at all. So our faith actually strengthens our path to healing, but it has nothing, just like your your physical health, mental health is also just as important. So I do what I can to spread that word and share that information with anyone who contacts me in the faith community. I've also, I'm a co-author of a book, and I talked about my experience with anxiety. A few years ago, I had an experience with anxiety, and so I was able to share that as a co-author in the book. And my practice is virtual, and so I'm able to mostly adults. I don't work with children anymore. And when they faded out, I kind of left them fade out. But I've spent most of my career working with children and families in various capacities. But when they faded out, I let them fade out. So I mostly work with adults, women who are in need of their healing space, that, getting back to the traumatic experiences. I'm really excited about the niche I'm developing with young men, especially Zillennials and millennial young men, who are now a part of my practice. Also, working with married couples and couples is one of my other niches that I have in my practice also. So those three groups are very, very dear to me and important to me in helping navigate. Sometimes I work with families when they reach out to me to restore that broken communication or brokenness within families. So I have not X'd out families, but I don't do a lot of family work, but I do some family work. And my genre, or I promote healing from the mind, body, and spirit perspective. And I incorporate practical, as Felice was talking about, practical skills as well as education, psychodynamic education, as well as Christian-based education if a person wants that, but I don't push that on them. But if they seek out that to incorporate in therapy, I also incorporate that in therapy. But a lot of, I call myself the solution therapist, and I feel like there's a solution to every problem. And sometimes we look for problems to solutions instead of solutions to problems, which keeps us in our unhealthy place. We automatically look for problems to solutions. And so my mantra is, if it can't be put on a table and we face it, we sure can't fix it and we can't heal from it. So that's pretty much my, I could say more, but I'll stop there.
Well, Gricelda, we're happy to have you here. And this is I'm so excited. And I just want to thank everybody again for taking your time to do this. This is so important. And excuse me, everybody. It's like the minute I get live, now all of a sudden I got a lot going on here today with this. I guess it's allergies. I don't know. I think it's because the weather keeps flopping around.
Absolutely.
And this is so cool because so we got 3 of us here in Michigan. And I think, let me see, 3 in Michigan, 1 in Mississippi, and then somebody in Georgia.
I know.
2 in Georgia.
I'm in Georgia. He's in
Okay,
Georgia by way of Mississippi.
That way.
And I'm in Tennessee.
Okay, all right. So, okay, and I can't believe I forgot to do it earlier. And and even though I don't went live 1,000,001 times, but I still get nervous, and wonder things and forget stuff. So hey, it is what it is, right? So I've actually been a practicing social worker here in the state of Michigan since 2003. I was originally licensed in 2001 in Atlanta or in Georgia, because that's where I went to graduate school. Went to Clark Atlanta, Clark Atlanta for graduate, and Wayne State University for undergrad. And just like a lot of you, I've done, you name it, I've done it. The only thing I haven't done is I've never worked in the school system, and I've never worked in the prison. I did I went for an interview at Rikers when I was living in New York, but the way they treated me like I was a prisoner. I was like, okay, I'm good. You know what? I'm good. I don't even need to interview. The way they was like, it was a very bad experience. But that's something I've never done. Never worked in corrections, probation, anything like that. But I've done foster care. I've done community mental health. I do community mental health right now, presently. I've worked at hospitals. I've worked in, like I said, foster care, preventative services. I've, gone into nursing homes and done, assessments there. I've worked in residential, where you go to the people's houses that maybe, have hip surgery, and, then they bring out so we work with the team, the physical therapists and the nurses. I've done that kind of work. Like I said, you name it. I've worked with homeless. I've worked with HIV, back in Atlanta when that was like, really a thing, if you will. I worked in substance abuse. So I've done quite a few things over the years. And right now, actually with the help of Miss Gricelda, I decided to do my own practice. I had started it originally in like 2016, 2017, and just kind of like got away from it. But I decided to do it again. And it's actually realizing your potential, counseling and
Absolutely.
life coaching services. And I started it officially January of 2024. So
Amen.
it's strictly virtual, and I'm really excited about it, so yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So at any rate, so that was a little bit about me in terms of my clinical background. So let's go back. So Shannon, I'm going to let you start first. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about, just I guess a little bit more about what you feel passionate about, like in terms of the specific area that you work in, and or different trends, I guess, that you've noticed, and how that has kind of shaped, what you do in your practice.
Sounds great. I have, let's see, over the past maybe 2.5 years, my focus in therapy has been self-care. Self-care for women. I have had most of my clients have been women of color, which is obviously my focus. I've counseled other races and all of that before too. But just women in general, the way that we don't take care of ourselves. It has been over the past 2.5 years, especially, and I guess that would be at like kind of in the middle of COVID, and then after COVID had happened, it's just like it was a wave of I got low self-esteem, self-doubt, parenting issues, you name it, they were going through it. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a plan to figure out how do we need to shape the how do I need to shape my therapy practice so I'm helping these women and realizing their potential. Right before that, maybe 2 years before that, I was going through my own self-love, self-care journey, and I'm like, okay, I got to get it together. I'm an oldest of 6 kids, so all my life I have taken care of people, mostly my brothers and sisters. So that has been I was basically second mama. So when y'all talk about trauma and stuff, it was like oldest child trauma, it's a thing, okay? Trying to take care of everybody else and be placed second mama to my brothers and sisters, and not having a childhood of my own, I've always taken care of people. So I've always been on the back burner. And as I hear these women's stories about how they don't take care of themselves and how if I don't do it, nobody else will do it. I'm sure all you women, all you ladies can relate. Like it is, I gotta do this, and this, and this, and this before I take care of myself. And we do not put ourselves first. I have for the past 2.5 years, that has been my preach. To put yourself first. And they're like, well, how do I do that? And it's a valid question. Like, how do you put everything else to the side and put yourself first? And basically telling them, like, look, it's a decision. It's not saying that you are inconsiderate or that you're going to let everything fall off or whatever. But if you're not okay, how you going to take care of everybody else? How you going to make everything else run or make sure everything is good if you're not okay? You rather suffer through depression, anxiety. You rather be stressed out and all of it to make sure everybody else is okay, but you all the way on the back burner. So trying to formulate I have, as far as formulated I guess you can call it a criteria or kind of like a foundation for re-identifying themselves and like, okay, this is the steps we're going to take so that you can reclaim your life. Because at this point, you going down a rabbit hole that you're not going to be able to get out of. Mm-hmm. And not taking care of themselves, of course, it led a lot of women into deep depression, anxiety, and they're like, well, I don't know why I feel this way, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And they feel like they felt like they were failing. And not only starting back then, I mean, it's still happening now. Like I get clients now, or I get or just, like I said, I work in the prison system now, and at the county jail we have men and women, and all the women that come in there, the cycle of getting in trouble and all that is like they're not taking care of themselves, and they have kids and they have families and stuff. Like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what is going on? But and the basis of that is they're uneducated. They have nobody has taught them how to take care of themselves. Nobody has told them you matter. You need to choose you first before you start taking care of everybody else. It's personal for me because I've been in that position. I've been there where I have taken care of everybody and gone down that long road of depression myself. And I'm like, okay, we got to pull ourselves back out. And they asked me, like, how do you do it? And I was like, I had to make the choice. Once you make the choice to take care of yourself and make that I used to make that jump, make that move. Like nothing else matters about unless how I feel. And I say, if you have to be, call it selfish if you want to. I'm the most selfish person in the world. If you want to tell me, I will say it right now. But that doesn't mean I don't care about everybody else. And telling my clients that, like, it's not saying that you're inconsiderate. It's not saying that you're gonna drop everything. It's just saying you putting yourself first. I give them the metaphor about having an umbrella. Like if you have an umbrella and say that you're the umbrella yourself, everything up under the umbrella is what you can take care of. If you got holes in that umbrella, like not taking care of yourself, you letting stress get in, depression and all that, you got holes in there, it's going to continue to rain on you. You're going to continue to have a whole thunderstorm if you don't start filling up some of them holes.
Absolutely.
So it is for my women, I tell, and it's for men too, because I have included them too. But for my women, I'm like, we are taught, society has taught us to be. I mean, we're the nurturers. We're the take care. Go to the woman and make sure she takes everything. We're expected to take care of everything, and even if that's true, we still have the responsibility to take care of ourselves. So it has been a journey over these past couple of years trying to, like I said, my criteria and stuff, how I go about therapy practices and stuff. I use CBT a lot as far as like trying to trying to navigate through negative thinking patterns and increasing self-esteem, increasing the idea about what your self-identity looks like, trying to get back to you. Like you're not the same person you were 15 years ago. So now it's trying to figure out what the person looks like now. Who is the person? Who is the woman you're trying to be now? Staying in the present. You can't predict the future, but you can start now in the present about what that better version looks like for you. But you can't do that if you're not taking care of yourself. And that's holistically. Like I told them, like, look, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not an exercise coach or nothing like that, but I can tell you that your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, your mental, all of that matters when it comes to holistically taking care of yourself. Because if it doesn't work together, like you're gonna leave some stuff behind. And I told them, granted, it's not perfect, and when it stops working, you got to find a different way to make it work for you. Our life is not always rainbows and sprinkles. So you got to figure out, okay, if this is not working, let me figure out how to make this work. There's always going to be something that we're going to be hit with. There's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be something we got to take care of. But if we are not putting ourselves first, then we're not going to be able to handle it. We're going to continue to be stressed out. So that is my that's what I've seen over these past couple of years is the idea that we do not take care of ourselves. So I have taken it that's what my therapy practice, the foundation of it is now, as far as my expertise and like just giving them the real, like if y'all don't straighten up, like we're gonna fall down. And like if we're gonna be the backbone, we gotta stand up first. So self-care, it's important.
So thank you so much. And you know what? I'll say this is that's one of because I focus on just my business in general is the wellness of women entrepreneurs in particular. Okay. And that's something that I've seen over the years, whether it be in my personal life or my professional life, that I tend to see a lot of women that are like maybe, let's say in their late 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s, right? That have raised children. You know, some of them may still be married or maybe they're divorced or separated. And they're like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Exactly. I'm so busy putting everyone else's needs before mine that they don't even know what they like. They don't know what they enjoy. They don't even know how to take care of themselves. So it's that whole educating piece about that self-care is not selfish and how to go about doing that. So
absolutely
keep up the good work with that. I definitely think that's so important. Okay, so thank you so much,
no
Shannon.
problem.
So, Miss Angela.
Yes. So I would have to say that I also focus on self-care quite a bit. And I always like to approach every situation from a strength-based perspective. And a lot of times people think of self-care in terms of, oh, I'm going to the barbershop, oh, I'm going to the salon. So I always start out with a simple self-care assessment that has 5 or 6 different categories. For example, You've got your professional self-care, which is often left out. You've got physical self-care. You've got spiritual self-care. You've got that mental self-care overall. You got your social. And then I've added even spatial self-care. So, for example, if you are struggling even with relationships, if you think of social self-care, what could be eliminated? What is working? What is adding to you? What is taking away from you? So, in that perspective, I help different clients figure out what's already working well, figuring out what kind of foundation we're working with. And a lot of times I will share a personal situation about when I was 12 years old, learning how to drive. Grew up in the country, so I started probably at 11, 12 years old. And my biggest fear was always pumping my own gas. So at that time, when I was growing up, it was either self-service or full service. And the hype was you go to full service because you don't have to get out of your car. They do everything for you. They check your oil, they check your tire pressure. But I said, okay, I'm going to go full service. Full service. I'm going to get it all. I can just pull up, let the attendant do what he has to do and keep driving. But as I got older, as I was a more experienced driver, I realized, okay, maybe he's pumping my gas. Maybe he's checking my oil, but there is more that I need. I need the inside of my windshield cleaned out. I've been traveling for miles. I've been eating snacks. Y'all clean my trash out. I need my snacks replenished. Did you check my trunk? Did you check my back seat? Did you check my rear view mirrors? So it was at that moment that I realized that self-service was the better benefit, which means that's you contributing to your own needs. And so I use that analogy a lot of times to help people identify what really is it that you need that's unique, that's different from maybe your family, maybe the situation that you grew up in. Maybe you've experienced a lot of distress, a lot of abuse, traumatic situations, but now with the way life has changed, what is it that's going to benefit you? What does self-service, or translating it, what does self-care look like for you? What are the greater needs? Maybe you're doing well already with certain skills like grounding techniques. Maybe you are exercising on a regular, but guess what? That spiritual self-care is being starved. That may be where you're lacking. So figuring out what strengths are needed in the process of growth and healing. And I've noticed that we have more men. I know this is a Queen's round table, but I get excited when I see men stepping up and requesting mental health care because, oh my goodness, there's the overall stigma, but then there's also those labels that men deal with as, okay, you can't be vulnerable. You got to show up strong constantly. And so when the men reach out, I go from just exploring with them, giving them the opportunity to unpack, lay down whatever that presenting issue is, and then just having the space of feeling vulnerable, whatever it is they need to do in that space. So being really client-centered, person-centered, and hearing the story out, because a lot of times people don't know where to go to reach out for help. And then we sometimes forget that when you have reached out for help in the past, no one was actually there. No one understood, or either you received promises that, hey, I'll do it, and the person didn't come through. So, therapy has been a consistent, stable place for a lot of men and women, right? And so that is something that has been brand spanking new. Even within the culture, is just someone having someone present that they can trust. And I often share that that with being a licensed professional, we're governed by the board that says you keep a client's information private and confidential. And a lot of times the trust factor or even mistrust is an issue for the Black and Brown community. So being able to represent just a voice of consistency and being trustworthy and just kind of showing up in the community overall. But I would have to say self-care has been huge. And then just showing up, representing. I mentioned earlier that supporting autoimmune deficient clients was a big thing for me. And that actually derived out of my personal story. I have dealt with Crohn's for 24 years, Crohn's disease, for those of you who may or may not have heard of that. So it is an autoimmune deficiency that deals with the digestive system. And a lot of people have experienced different changes within their body, have been diagnosed late in life or even misdiagnosed. So going through that process of assessments, different tests, all of the different doctors and referrals and whatever else comes along with that, you need someone present to help navigate all of the information that you receive. Who's helping to not just collaborate with the medical doctors, but who's dealing with the depression that comes up? Who's dealing with the anxiety? Who's dealing with the adjustment from a seemingly happy, healthy life to, okay, now here's month to month treatment. Now here's changes in medication. Now here's frequent ER visits, things of that nature that can affect a person. And it cycles between, okay, now I'm not feeling well physically, and here I am worrying about it. And so then the worry increases the physical symptoms, and it just cycles, right? So you've got to figure out ways to minimize the anxiety, minimize all the other feelings. And again, that pulls in the other areas of self-care, which could be spiritual, which could be physical. And a lot of times it just overlaps. So figuring out what the people need and just creating that space. I often say that I create whatever it is you need, we can create that space. This is your safe space. And I tell you, it has been a blessing, to be honest, to have that level of impact within the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Angela. And thank you for sharing, your personal experience with us with the Crohn's and so forth. And thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Miss Dominique.
Yes, so I definitely have to echo what has already been shared about self-care. One of the reasons why I started to do the mental health workshops for millennial women was because I was seeing self-care be addressed so surface level, and not really getting to the root of why you struggle with taking care of yourself. And so one of the one of the biggest things that I would highlight in those workshops is self-care isn't just about how you feel, but how you function. And so one of the prevalent things that I was noticing was women not feeling safe in their own bodies and having that up and down of reacting, being led by the emotions, not feeling safe and in survival mode, having those interpersonal conflict struggles, having those relationship struggles, those cycles, those repetitive cycles of, I keep going through this or I keep feeling that. And so that was really huge for me to notice that. And I said, I think we're talking about our nails and our hair too much. I think we're talking about, escapism too much, and we're not really getting to the root, with shopping and retail therapy. And I would always highlight that retail therapy isn't helping you if it's just a coping mechanism. You're escaping what's truly going on, right? Your closet is full, but you're still you're not coping with what's really going on, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what I was seeing the most. Some of the things that I would do, because I am still in the process of getting certified for trauma, because it's a difference between being informed and actually, providing that trauma therapy. So I would say I'm more on the informed side, studying to become well equipped to provide that trauma therapy. And so I do focus on that safe space, because if people are in, if women are in survival mode, they don't feel safe. And some 9 times out of 10, they don't know that they don't feel safe. They're just reacting and responding to, you know, what made them feel unsafe as a child. And so I would use the safetiness of community, the safetiness of relatability, just talking about these issues and also highlighting these issues in such a way where I felt like it was the self-awareness that I needed to start with. Because we tend to stay connected to things that make us comfortable, even if it's not healthy. Because that's what helped us to survive and get to where we probably are now. And so really identifying those unhealthy patterns, those unhealthy, and you know what, I really won't say unhealthy, because when I talk about trauma, trauma is such a spectrum, but it's really adapting and responding to things in such a way where you are honestly trying to survive and get to safety. So I try not to highlight trauma as such. It's such a buzzword, but I try not to highlight it in such a way where it brings a negative connotation to, you know, oh, you're just full of trauma, right? But we all have experienced it to some degree. But knowing how we are functioning with trauma in our lives. And so that's what I'm really big on, as you can see, helping people, helping the women connect the dots. So that's where that self-awareness piece would come in, as to, you know, you may struggle with self-care because you have experienced the abandonment and neglect as a child. So you don't know how to take care of yourself. You don't know what it feels like to be taken care of. And so it's kind of like how to do something you don't really have the tools to do, or the language. So that's what I'm really big on that. I'm really passionate about it. I'm currently studying to be able to be even more effective. But I would say that where I am right now is meeting people where they are, and bringing a sense of normalcy to the fact that we all have experienced trauma to some degree. It's not black and white. It probably will never be black and white because of what the world we live in
Never gonna
today,
be
the
that.
mental health crisis that we're in today as a nation. It'll never be black and white. So providing women with the tools through that safe community. I do a lot of mindfulness through journaling and helping our bodies and our minds to be still, so that we can just become more in tune with our bodies. You know, when we talk about self-care, you know, chronically ignoring when we need to eat, chronically ignoring when we need sleep, being used to being hyperactive and being high functioning, right? In the Black community, not realizing we're actually depressed, but we know how to put on a good face and perform. So I'm just really big on bringing forth that exposure and awareness, so that people can see that even if you do struggle in whatever area it may be, let's talk about it. And also just being mindful enough not to talk about it too soon, because that's another thing that I advocate for as someone who's trauma informed. I don't want to create a safe space and then we're talking, and now you're re-traumatized. So I'm very aware of how sensitive trauma can be, to the fact of, you know, every conversation isn't for everybody, and there's a place and a time to talk about it. And so in my more of my one-on-one, or my topical groups, that's when I kind of talk about it a little bit more, but even still being cognizant of the fact that, you know, we do have the ability to usher someone into a good old conversation about trauma, and it can re-traumatize them all over again. So that's my spiel, right? That's pretty much all that I would say has been such a pattern that I'm like stuck here, right? I'm like, there has to be solutions, resources, different things that can be provided to these women, so that they can heal for real and address that inner childhood trauma.
Wow. Ooh, okay, Dominique.
Amazing. Okay.
Right, right. That's
Yes.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
And you
Yeah.
know, and it's like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, when you talk about, and I don't know the different generations, y'all. I just know millennials, but I don't know the other ones that come after that. Okay, so, but just even hearing that, like, kind of from a different perspective, and the whole piece about the self care, you know, and
Mhm.
just talking about surface level, you know what I mean, and like, what does it really mean in terms of self care? And then I know, I think it was, oh, yo, my stomach is growling so bad. We're talking about self care. I didn't eat today. It's so loud. I think it was you, Miss Angela, that talked about the different aspects of self care. I love
Hmm.
that. Absolutely
Hmm.
love that. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna be
Hmm.
quiet. All right.
Hmm.
So thank you, Dominique. So
Yeah.
Felice.
Yes, and this is so much. This is so full of information everyone has, and I love what I'm seeing is a pattern, and we're building on. There's
Me
like a
too.
crescendo. Everyone is showing up in their, where they are able to serve, which is absolutely beautiful. For me, what I do is I start with when let me put it like this. Let's go behind the veil or behind the door, because in therapy, we know that it's typically a one-on-one relationship. We talk about, establishing the therapeutic rapport, meeting people where they are. We don't, because of the confidentiality, I don't know what Shannon is doing with her clients. I don't know what Angela is doing, Dominique is doing. I don't know what's going on, but what I do know is that when I'm sitting with someone, I do see them as a human. I understand that, we move through life based on our experiences. So that's the approach I take. It is that strengths based approach. Okay, tell me about a time before the age of 10 where somebody helped you. And so when and then I see a person, and they may struggle to even know when they were helped before the age of 10. And that's telling in and of itself. I can't remember. Oh, I don't know. Or they already have a story. And being able to assess using the clinical training and the clinical skill. It's raining here, guys, so please forgive me if I go out. But you looking at using the clinical insight, being able to say, oh wow, this person can actually go back to the age of 1 or 2 and be able to tell a story from that perspective. And then we have people who aren't able to tell those stories. So for me, the goal is when when a person is able to tell how they have been helped, when they can chime in, or they have a story, then I, as their helper, will know how to help them. Do they need attention? Do they need encouragement? Do they need the psychoeducation? Do they need, what is it they need? And then so we look at those early recollections, those early stories, those early memories, and we're able to pull out the stories. So my perspective is, look, our lives are basically a spectrum of stories. You know, how do we feel threatened? How do we feel helped? What stories are we telling ourselves when it comes to self-care? Well, I have to show up for everybody. Okay, so what do you get from that? What feedback do you get from being a helper to everybody? you know um or what feedback do you get when you really want attention, when or you may have been engaged in a power struggle growing up? What's that power struggle like? You're not the boss of me. Okay, you're right, I'm not. You're the boss of yourself, so what are we going to do? you know we have to think about that. Or even when we look at attention seeking, or even this display of inadequacy, what is that about? you know and I'm able to see that when if I'm speaking to even a youth, or even a older adult. Well, ask a question. Well, I don't know. And they know. 9 times out of 10 they know, but their story, their feedback has been, their mirror neurons has been dismissed. So if I've been dismissed for all of these years, then I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to say anything, because it really doesn't matter. That's the story. So we look at those stories, we unpack those stories, and I know that it can be very scary to look at a story that you've had for 50 years, for 45 years. You've been living in this story, you've been carrying this weight all of this time. So Yeah, and really helping them to understand. Can are you guys? Am I going in and out?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. So, but it's important to understand. Don't be afraid of the story. Look at it from a place of curiosity, because once you look at it, then you will see those patterns, and then you can address those patterns, and then you can see how you've been moving through life. You can see what has helped, you can see what has not helped, and then that's when you can start, I call it elevating, getting more into that thinking part of the brain. So that is so important, because if you don't know what those threats are, if you don't know what those stories are, if you don't even know whose story it is that you're playing out. Is this your story? Is this your mama's story, your daddy's story, your auntie's story, your cousin's story? Whose story are you living out? And again, look, it's just about being curious so that you can get the healing that you want. And I tell you, from that perspective, when I share that perspective, I can see people's, my clients' eyes light up, and it's just like, it's almost as if they've already been thinking this way. And the thing is, that rapport or that validation is, wow, I'm not crazy. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. You're not crazy. You're making sense of this world. So I love, in that, I love, number one, always talking about the brain, but also talking about those internal family systems, IFS, internal family systems. What part of yourself is exiled? What part of yourself is the firefighter or trying to protect you from? You know, that manager. And we're good at that, as good at this as women. We show up, we put on that smile, that face, we manage everything. How are you doing? I'm fine. Oh, are you? Okay. And acronym that I always use when I hear the word fine is fully in need of encouragement. You know, fully in need of encouragement. How can I walk along with you today? How can I help you? That's what I'm here to do, because ultimately I look at my clients as, you are the expert. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. You just need a space, a safe space to share that. And I love what Dominique said. Look, we're not going to rush this thing. We're going to take our time. I have, and I love my women who come in like, they already got it together and they need to know we're going to do X, Y, Z. Oh, they're really disassociated and disconnected with themselves. And listen, no judgment, because hey, two hands if you've been there. I've been there. Okay. So I'm like, hey, hold on, slow down, slow down. Let's slow it down a little bit. We're going to take our time. We're going to go slow. And that's what I do. Let's take this slow. Tell me the first time before the age of 10 where you remember somebody helping you, you know? And then you hear things. So let's start there. So I will know there's no magic in this storytelling. The only magic is that it gives me insight in how to help you. Okay. Do you want to, for me, when I tell that story, my story is of Jimmy. He was like the community. He helped out. We call it with the center. That was a community center. I remember him teaching me how to ride a bike, a 10 speed. And so I probably was maybe 8, 9, somewhere around there. And he was, holding behind me. You know how to do when you help ride the bike. And so he helped me to learn how to ride the bike. And next thing I know, I was going on my own, and I looked and he wasn't there. And I was like, oh my God, it felt so good. I felt free. So freedom is important for me as an individual to help. So what does that mean? That's a level of independence. So how do we get there? By educating, by reading. So that works for me. Then I may have people who feel helped when you're able to give them that encouragement. So that's important, when they have that intention, when they have that, that feedback. So that's good. I love it. And I'm able to do that. I'm able to give them what they need so that they can feel helped. as they work through whatever it is that they're working through. And then also, in my approach to helping is being relatable. And we all know the value of relatedness. You know,
Oh,
your
yeah.
story is not my story. My story is not your story. In any event, it's a story. It's your story. It's your experience. And so who am I to tell you to diminish that? Good, bad, or indifferent? I can't tell you, I can't diminish that because that's your story. What I can challenge you to do is see how you interact with that story. So that creates a space of freedom, that creates a space for healing, and it also creates a space for a person to know what they're thinking, know what they're feeling, and know how they respond to that. So understanding that is so important. And I also want to say, I think somebody talked about that. Maybe it was Gricelda. You may have mentioned that earlier, but really tapping into what's going on in your body. Where are you having these experiences? Where are you having these feelings? It's so important because when my clients leave me after their 53 to 60 minutes a week, they still have to be with themselves. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And one of the greatest things I know, even telling people who aren't maybe tapped into their bodies and what's going on, when they tell me, oh yeah, I did what you suggested and I was able to feel what was going on, and I was able to respond in a way that was healthy. It was a healthy coping pattern. So that's what I do. That's what I'm seeing. I help people get to the root of what's going on. We look at life. We know life happens on a continuum. So we look at those early experiences. We don't get stuck in it, but we look at it for insight, for patterns. That's what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Felice. I'm over here trying to remember who helped me before the age of 10.
Yeah. Think about that. Think about that
Over
story.
here.
If it was a teacher, if it was
Right.
anybody, somebody teaching you how to cook.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Felice. All right, we're still the last, but definitely not least.
Okay. Hi. My the trends that I've seen is the gamut of things. Since the pandemic or during the pandemic, I saw, a lot of people with anxiety, a lot of people with depression. I think that was our wake up call to really face ourselves and really understand that something is not right. Even with therapists, I have a lot of therapists who are clients now, and which is important for our own self-care and being able to deposit what we take in so much of to somebody else. And so we need therapy also. Even though we provide therapy, we need therapy. And so I'm big on self-care. I'm big on accountability and empowerment. And so I try to equip people to most people know what decision they need to make. It's already somewhere within. They just need someone to support them and helping them reach that gamut. I tell people that I'm not supposed to lecture you or tell you what to do. I'm your partner in you finding a solution to what you're supposed to do. So I try to come from that strength based and that person centered perspective of really empowering them to make their own choices or different choices than the ones that they have made already. So I have, I get, someone talked earlier about women. We, our self-care as women is really depleted a lot of times. And I tell people, I get a lot of people in their 40s to 60 when they come in after they've raised their families or, like she said, divorced or whatever the case may be. And they really don't know who they are because they spent their lifetime as adults in the role of motherhood, the role of working woman, the role of this, the role of church person, the role of whatever that role is, until they have not, have no understanding of who they are, especially when they have gotten married or became a mother at a young age, like their early 20s. You're at 20, you're just figuring out who you are as a woman or a man. So if you become somebody else's woman, mother or their wife at that age, you don't really have the time to develop that. And so here you are 40, 50, or 60 years old, I mean, even 70-year-old women I've had come to me and, you know, even wanted to divorce now, but not knowing how to get out of it. You know, they've been married for 30 years and 20 years and they're figuring out, like, why am I here? I'm not happy. I don't know how to get out. And so, you know, just having that perspective of somebody to support them to make their own decision that they already, you know, have within them. They just need the support to navigate how we got here. And, you know, we didn't get here overnight. And so you come into therapy for 1 year or 6 months or 3 months is not going to turn around a lifetime worth of trauma, a lifetime worth of anything. It's not going to turn that around, but it's going to open your eyes and give you insight to where you need to be and some of the choices you've made. And she talked a lot about the message, the narrative or the messages. And a lot of times we play these messages over and over in our head, or these narratives that people speak to us. And some of them have not been good. And some of them we have drawn a conclusion from how they have handled themselves around us. And one of the things I do is look at attachment, how we connect to other people and why we connect to them in the way that we do. And so that's been very helpful with the men that I have. You know, I always say that with men, they generally have 3 responses that they have learned how to respond to things. And one of them is they generally withdraw or shut down. You know, I'm good. We've heard that 1,000 times. I'm good, but they're not good. They either attack because they either like get defensive because they feel attacked, and then anger, which covers all the other stuff. I'm hurt, I'm frustrated, I'm this, I'm that, I have trauma. So creating a space for them to connect what they really are feeling to words, because they don't have those words to connect how they're really feeling. And a lot of things that I found that work for me is I have a lot of men who the shadow work, you know, guys with Carl Jung, he created the shadow work. And so really just digging deeper into what is behind the facade and what society has expected you to be. And, you know, they have set the pattern. You know, a lot of men have trauma or traumatic experiences that they don't have a safe place to ever talk about. So creating that space where they can dig deeper inside to talk about those things and have that rapport and that relatable connection with a therapist, and creating that safe space for them to really, now I can really, you know, they may come to you for one reason, but when they get comfortable, they start talking about a whole gamut of things and identifying some things that really they have not looked at before because they've been afraid to look at it. So that's one thing that I do. And the other thing that, you know, I get a lot of, after the pandemic, I started having a lot of grief, people coming to me for grief therapy. I would say, you know, grief is a bereavement is a process. I mean, bereavement has a period, but grief is a process subject to the griever. And a lot of times we get ourselves in situations where we find that people like, wow, you're still having a problem with that? They've been dead 2 years, or they've been dead, you know, a year ago. You know, a lot of people died during the pandemic. A lot of people were scared. A lot of people lost, you know, a lot of people during the pandemic. And, you know, they have a new normal. What do I do now? So, you know, just dealing with that from, you know, the perspective of the pandemic. And some of those people didn't die from the COVID, but a lot of people, you know, I have clients that have lost a child to unexpected death, to murder, to suicide, to whatever the case may be, or you lost a parent due to old age. And so I deal a lot of times with grief. And in my couples therapy, just really finding that connection. That's another area where I like to use attachment. How are we connecting with one another, and why are we having these problems with communication in our relationship? Because something happened where attachment was interrupted, and we don't understand why we relate to people the way we relate to them. We don't understand our individual behavior, where now we're connecting this behavior, and now we have a problem because, you know, we don't know how we got here. And so those are the things that I tend to do, creating those spaces. You know, she talked about survival mode. And I always say that survival mode is meant to be, you know, it's a defense mechanism, but it's not meant to be our permanent residence. And a lot of times we stay in survival mode. And we have these, you know, we as women especially, we've learned to just keep going to the point where we don't have anything left to give, but we still keep going. So if I can understand that I'm in survival mode, and I have been in survival mode for a long time, I can now connect with myself in a way that I can identify some behaviors that I have, patterns that I have set, and behaviors that I have laid a foundation for, and try to change how the message or the narrative has been for me. And so that's what I create that platform to be, to, understand. First, you got to understand you've been in survival mode all this time. And then you start to lay the foundation to create a different place to live. You can't stay in survival mode, but now I got to create a new place to live. And so, and those are the three things that I really love doing. I deal a lot of stuff with childhood trauma. I used to work years ago in residential treatment before I became a licensed therapist. I worked in residential treatment, and one of the things that I worked on was the unit where the girls were sexually abused or traumatized. And, that was such rewarding work. It was hard work sometimes, but it was rewarding work because, little girls don't have the capacity to say, I'm hurting. So they act out. And as adults, we do the same thing. We act out in some kind of way, whether it's shopping, whether it's cussing somebody out, or whether, whatever the case may be. We one-wording you because we're angry, we're bitter. We don't even know why we're angry. But we have had these experiences happen to us, and these narratives play for us. And now we have to try to go about the process of shifting and turning that around. So that's pretty much, what I encounter in my practice daily. And again, having that educational piece about what mental health really looks like. I don't treat like community mental health or acute mental health people in my practice anymore because I'm, strictly private practice. I don't work another job. Thankfully, I was able to leave my job in 2021, a year after starting my practice. So the same month that I started my practice, I was able to leave my job. And that great resignation that they talked about, I was one of those people in 2021, in June of 2021. So I strictly am available to focus on my clients and their needs, and and also my own self-care, like she talked about in the last couple of years. I having my own health scare. I had one in 2018 when I had the anxiety, and then I had one last year. And so I'm learning myself to put myself first. And sometimes in self-care, you got to go alone. I'm one of those people that like to see everybody win and everybody empowered, but everybody don't want to go where you're going. And everybody's not meant to go where you're going. So sometimes you have to go alone. And so that's, we have to be okay with that. So, that's one thing I'm learning for myself as well as teaching other people. And like she said, it's not being selfish, but if you want to call that selfishness, oh well. But, I'm learning that for myself, I have to do the things, a lot of things that I have set out to do. I've been ordained to do. God has, planned for me to do, that I have let setbacks hinder me. My setbacks for taking care of other people, my setbacks for fear and procrastination, and a lot of things we need to recognize in ourselves as therapists. And that's why a lot of therapists are coming to me for help now, because they recognize that those have been setbacks or stumbling blocks for them. I heard a lady that I counseled before. She was a pastor, and one of the things she said to me was, I have not overcome everything that I preach about. And as therapists, we have not overcome everything that we provide therapy about. So when you say, how can you provide marriage counseling and you've never been married? Well, you're giving the tools to people. And what, you don't have to be, I don't have to be on crack to tell you to avoid how we got here on drugs or anything. So I don't have to have your experience in order to retrain you in your experience. And that's a myth that people oftentimes have, that we have to, I want somebody that goes through what I go through. No, you don't, because guess what? They might be stuck where you're stuck. So you don't want them to necessarily, they don't have to necessarily have overcome your situation in order to help you through your situation. So, that's pretty much, and another thing that I'm looking at, I'm getting my doctorate degree from Grand Canyon University, and I'm looking at the organizational perspective of how we deal with mental health. Primarily my dissertation at this time, I'm just starting this process, and I'm learning that even in that it may change before I get to that point. But I'm looking at how athletes are expected to perform And no matter what's going on, as long as you're making us the money and you're performing. And then you see the athletes who have murdered people, or they're doing all kind of behavioral things because that part of them is not being addressed as long as they are high performers. And so I'm looking at the organizational perspective of how we look at that, how we deal with that, how we assess that, and how we screen for that. And, you know, coming in the door. And that's, you know, I think it goes unnoticed and untouched until something happens, but I want you to touch it before it happens. So that's pretty much where I am.
Okay. Oh, I had to see if I was still on mute. Wow, this has been very powerful. I hope you all have enjoyed this. I know that anybody that listens to this will get a lot out of this. And if it's not something for themselves in particular, something that they could pass on to another individual to be able to, you know, help them. I mean, you all really touched on some good points. And, you know, so now I guess with our remainder time, let's just go through, and if you have maybe a one-liner or, you know, a brief statement, if you will, that you want to leave the audience with, as well as where they can contact you or how they can, you know, reach out to you. I'd like for us to go ahead and do that now. We'll go in the same order. So Shannon, then Angela, Dominique, Felice, and then Gricelda.
Oh, I was still on mute. Sorry. Okay. This has been amazing. Oh my gosh. And I'm sorry, y'all. My light didn't went out. My TikTok light didn't ran out of power. But this has been absolutely amazing. So I just had to say that first. You ladies are so great. Continue to do the greatest work. I didn't took notes myself trying to catch up. So yeah. But let me get to it. I'm sorry. I have my phrase or my go-to quote or whatever it is: be true to you. No, be good to yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. And I say that after I do like motivational minutes and stuff like that. And that's the thing I say after every one of my videos: be good to yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. So I can be reached. My website is www.altruismwellness. That's ALTRIUSM wellness.net. I have email on there, phone number on there. You can subscribe to my website as well. There's all kind of great things on there. I have ebooks available, self-care planners. This is one of them that I came up with. So it's a plethora of information on there. And it's a lot of things coming soon too as well. I also can be reached on Instagram at positively_Shan. And that is where I do my motivational minutes, and I send out motivational posts and stuff like that, and I provide a lot of coping skills and stuff on that platform. So that's what that's used for. So website and Instagram. And also I did just to mention this, a women's conference I was a part of in Atlanta. It was last month, and it's a women's conference a women's conference tour. That's what she's doing. The lady, her name is Sorora Christine. But they started in Las Vegas, and they've been to Baltimore as well. We did Atlanta last month, and then next month, April 24th, we'll be in Houston, and then May they'll be in Charlotte, and June they'll be in Chicago. So if you ladies are interested in going those places or close to those places, let me know. You can email me and I'll send you the flyer, the information or whatever. But that was so dynamic, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it again. I said I got to get to another one, so because Atlanta was great. So I'm going to Houston, but them other places or whatever. And even if you're interested in being a speaker, she's always looking for speakers and people to be a part of it. So if you ladies are interested, just email me, call me, let me know, and I will definitely give you the information. But this has been amazing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for actually being a part of this. And, you know, you're a wealth of information yourself, and we'll definitely stay in contact.
Yes.
All right, Shannon. Okay, Miss Angela.
I will say to those listening and viewing, do not suffer in silence. There is always a way for help and support. Reach out to the new crisis line, which is 988. You can call, you can text, you can message. Maybe you know someone who needs that, but that is a mental health crisis line. You can also still go, call 911, go to your nearest emergency room, but do not wait until there is a national fatality to seek out help. Call, connect to some of these therapists and websites. There are a lot of things even showing up on social media where you can ask questions. Mental health screenings are free. You can go online. You can even go to my website, www.thejacksonimpact.com, and go to mental health screening. It is a free questionnaire. The responses will be sent directly to your email privately. So do not suffer in silence. Again, that website is www.thejacksonimpact.com. You can find me at Jackson Impact on Facebook. And also, I encourage you to join the private Facebook group. It is the Jackson Impact Mental Health Hub. I like to say it is the best mental health hub out there because we share weekly tips, tools, and techniques, things that you can do to address anxiety, things that you can address communication, whatever the situation is. Mindfulness, just check it out. There's a tool, there's a technique every single Friday. Also, we'd like to highlight resource providers. Maybe you work for someone who offers a resource for your community. Maybe it's something national, right? I know I mentioned I'm in Tennessee, but I like to highlight different providers because someone is looking for what we have to offer. Also, you can find me on Instagram, the Jackson Impact, that is the.jackson.impact, or the Angela T. Jackson. I'm on there as far as my personal page. Also, all of these handles are also on my website. I do have a journal that my son and I collaborated together on, and it is the Jackson, it's actually Journal with Me, guided journal prompts. I believe that journaling of any kind helps you to get those thoughts out of your head onto the paper. You can better organize them that way. And I like to bring up my son because he's actually the illustrator, a young college student who's also majoring in psychology. So I'm proud of him for taking that step and partnering with his mom. So y'all can find this journal on Amazon. Again, it's Journal with Me, guided journal prompts. And then there are some other notebooks that I call therapy companions. A lot of times you want to get those thoughts out or jot some things down that maybe you might not ordinarily remember. And it can help with that process of just memory timelines in general. So reach out, ask questions, use your employee assistance program. Maybe you've heard of EAP. Check it out with your human resources if you're employed. If you're unemployed, call 211. That will connect you with resources nationally to figure out what resources and what community is available to you, potentially for free. Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us, Angela. All right, Dominique.
Nice. So yes, I even piggybacking off of Miss Angela and what she was sharing about, not waiting to the last minute for those resources. One thing that I forgot to mention was I'm actually extremely grateful to be a part of. Right now, I operate as a crisis care shift supervisor for an organization. I'm not sure if I'm able to share it just yet, but an organization that will be one of the first organizations to provide a full service crisis stabilization unit in Michigan. So that is to come. It's in the works, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. I think about things like mobile crisis, being able to access those type of resources now, I think is actually really cool. And so I'm really big on being able to know what the resources are and to not feel as if, you're not worthy of those resources. And then lastly, two affirmations that I always like to share in my workshops with women is I am good enough, and I've always been good enough. I love sharing those two because I say, as women, I feel like it's a universal, unspoken belief that we sometimes struggle with. And so I love to end with saying, I am good enough, and I've always been good enough.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you give a social media handle or a website or
Oh
anything?
yes, sorry. So I don't have a website right now. I am on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, as it looks sort of like my name and title here, as Dominique L. Smith. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. I'll be sharing a lot of information about my second annual Hill Girl Summer conferences this year, as well as on TikTok. Everybody knows about TikTok. I'm actually doing a social work panel right after this, 9 p.m. Central. I'm sorry, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. It'll be 8 p.m. Central Time, and we'll be talking about social work and providing those resources to MSW students. I was elected the NASW MSW student of the year for my graduate program, so that was something that also put a fire under me, I believe, to just really pioneer for the social workers, specifically Black and Brown women that look like me, to allow just the heart of advocacy that we carry, to pioneer for our communities and for our youth. So I'm really big on that. And I'd love for anyone interested in that type of work, whether it be trauma or with the field of social work, to remain connected. So thank you so much for this opportunity to speak tonight. It has been an honor, and I'm really excited to just hear the full circle of it all. And I wish you all the very best.
Well, thank you, Dominique. And it's been wonderful having you be a part of this panel. All right. So next, Felice.
Thank you so much. It truly has been a blessing to be a part of this panel today and to share. I see so many people that I'd love to remain in contact with. What I always say is to feel the feeling and let it flow. Feel the feeling and let it flow. That means that we have mountaintop experiences, we have valley experiences, but just know that life ebbs and flows. So we're going to feel the feeling and let it flow. We don't get stuck in it. We have to keep moving forward. You can find me on all social media platforms as Felice Martin LPC. My goal is to become more active and engaged on those platforms. Additionally, I will be presenting a workshop with the LPCA of Georgia. And so that's the Licensed Professional Counseling Association of Georgia. That is in May. So I'm really excited about that. Additionally, feel free to reach out on my website. It is bhacounseling.com, and that's B as in boy, H as in house, A as in apple, counseling.com. And you can always reach out there, and we are very responsive via the website. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. And remember, you do matter. Remember that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Felice, for being a part of this panel as well. All right, Miss Gricelda. Oh, you muted again.
I was saying I have had a wonderful time, and I am so grateful to meet all of you. And I too would like to stay connected. I was trying to write down the information to how to reach you, but it was going so fast. So I'm gonna hopefully Dr. Jackie will give me the information so I can connect with you guys later. Two things that I generally say to people. I said one earlier. One is, if you cannot face it, we are not going to be able to fix it and heal from it. And sometimes we have to encourage people to put that stuff on the table that they have been holding on to like a prisoner or a packed bag for so long. And so they, how are we going to unpack it if we don't put it on the table to unpack it? So that's one of the things I like to say. And the other thing is that it is okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not get help.
Okay.
So those are two things that I like to tell people and encourage them to push them in a direction of seeking out some help and knowing that they're not crazy, they're not, they're not weak for needing help, but that they need to get some things under control and some things addressed that they have been carrying for so long. So that hopefully encourages people, and it has to this degree, to this day, has encouraged people to seek out therapy, whatever platform that may be. And I don't have my website up and running right now, but I am on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. On TikTok, I am the Solutions Therapist on TikTok, and on Instagram, I can be found under Gricelda Ramsey, which is my personal page, and Life-Changing Therapeutic.gr is my professional page. Also Life-Changing Therapeutic on Facebook also. I'm on there also. And LinkedIn is under my name, Gricelda Ramsey. And I think I covered it. I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really use, Twitter, but I don't use Twitter that much at all. So, but you can also find me at Psychology Today under my name. That way, if someone is seeking out some help, I think all of us are on some kind of platform where you can seek us out. I'm also using a practice software called Simple Practice. I can be reached on there for appointments or connections or requests. I'm also in the Marquee Who's Who of America. You can find me, my profile under that also, and connect with me any of those ways. And I have all those ways to have appointments also, schedule appointments also, or request an appointment also. So I appreciate all of you and all of your wealth of knowledge that you have brought. And I too was taking notes because I got some good nuggets from each of you. And I hope we can stay connected and do more of these things, whether in your city or whatever the case may be. I hope that we can be a resource to each other in whatever capacity. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you, Gricelda, for being a part of this panel. And thank you to everyone. And don't forget, I'm going to do a quick wrap up, and just don't forget to kind of hang out until your till the recording finishes, because it'll say recording, and just kind of make sure that it's I guess it'll say, I don't know, I guess it'll say finish. I don't know what it says on you all's end, but just kind of hang out for a second. So thank you all for that have tuned in for this is the 8 Queens Roundtable Leadership Symposium. This particular one that happens in March is titled My Health is My Wealth. And we focused it on mental health awareness. And as I don't know if maybe, if you came in on the video in the middle of it, make sure you go back to the beginning, make sure you share it out. Make sure you subscribe to the 8 Queens Roundtable YouTube channel to stay updated on all of the upcoming events. We also have 3 individual interviews as well, all under the topic of My Health is My Wealth. So, stay tuned for that. We have some testimonies, and it's just, it's going to be informative as well, because again, this is all about bringing awareness to help us as women primarily. I mean, men, you all can get something from it too, but this is primarily to help women in terms of their overall mental health. So I'm your host, Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. And, like I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel and, stay tuned and go back to the beginning of the whole broadcast. Leave whatever questions or comments you have. Definitely reach out to the ladies. I'll have their information as well, in the description below. So if you want to follow up with them, and connect, and let's definitely all stay connected and, bring each other in on, other opportunities, because it's all about, spreading the word and decreasing that stigma, allowing people to come and get the help that they need. So with that being said, we have concluded our panel, And thanks again to you all that have participated, and for all of you that are going to listen to this broadcast. All right, so everyone take care and make sure you stay tuned. All righty.